What's up everybody, Ryko here. Today, we're going to be going over 5 budget options that are pretty good in terms of competitive viability going into the post-Legacy of Destruction format. Yes, lately I've been posting some deck profiles that have been a little more expensive than not, as some of these profiles included the Fire Engine. However, today we're going to be discussing some budget alternatives that can easily get you wins at locals, and if you bring it to a regional level, will still do pretty well overall. But before we get into the 5 decks, thank you all so much for your continued support. You all are awesome. I really couldn't be doing this without you all. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. It definitely helps a lot. But with that, let's just jump right in. So, starting off with number 1, and mind you, these are in no particular order at all, but starting off at number 1, we have Floowandereeze. Yes, Floowandereeze. I know, it's an annoying deck to play against, and arguably some cards should be hit for that deck. But as it stands now, going into Legacy of Destruction, it's still going to be very, very powerful and a very strong contender moving forward. It can do so much with Prosperity still at 3, with Map still at 3. Essentially, the only hit that this deck has is Barrier Statue. And yes, that card was obnoxious and did just get free wins, but the deck is still very strong and performing well right now. With Legacy of Destruction comes new Diabellstar support, comes the Tenpai archetype, comes a lot of different cool cards that are going to be really spicing up the meta. But Floowandereeze, it's a very, very affordable deck, which is nice, and you can essentially pick up the whole thing for under $100 at this point. Overall, if you're looking to do really, really well, and although you may not make many friends with this deck, Floowandereeze is a really solid option, and I would recommend it, especially if you're looking to not break the bank. For number 2, we have Tri-Brigade Fire King. That's right, it's a fire deck, but hold on, you don't need the expensive cards. Yes, Wanted, Diabellstar, Promethean, the Snake Eye engine, it all helps, but with Fire King Tri-Brigade, it does so much, and you don't need all the expensive cards. SP Little Knight isn't required, the Wanted package isn't required, Black Witch isn't required. I would argue you probably want Original Sinful Spoil there, but that's, what, like a $3-4 card at this point? And so essentially, if you pick up the 3 structure decks and the Tri-Brigade core, you essentially have this deck. And it's not expensive, and it's really, really strong and powerful overall. The 2 decks have great synergies with one another, as Garunix can dump Kit, or let's say Fractal can dump Ponix as well. There's really cool synergies that overlap these decks, and having that non-targeting banish and all these different kinds of forms of monster negates through Apollousa as well, and all this grind game and push with the Fire King cards, it's a really, really solid deck, and I would recommend giving it a shot. I've never been the biggest fan of Tri-Brigade, to be completely candid, but overall, I've seen this deck perform, and it can definitely be frightening, and what's really nice about it is it's not that expensive. You really don't need the expensive cards. If you're looking to play some sort of fire deck, this is the deck for you. Moving on to number 3, we have Marincess. Well, kind of. Marincess is a budget deck, but ever since Jesse Cotton released a video on it, a lot of the cards did go up. They are still rather affordable, and I would consider this a budget deck, as a lot of the staples that Marincess plays was reprinted in the Rarity Collection, and overall, the deck just isn't that pricey. There are certain cards that may cost $5 or $10, but overall, you're not really going to be breaking over 100, 150 max. Yes, if 150 or 100 is still a little too expensive for you, at the end of the day, this is a luxury game. It can be difficult to play this game without putting some sort of money into it, but you're not going to be spending the $400, $500, $600 that like voiceless players or fire players are spending, because yes, the fire cards are going down, but they're still way too expensive. So hopefully the prices will keep going down, but for now, Marincess is looking like a solid option. Plus, it's another deck that can use Zelantis, and Zelantis is super cool. I love that card. Some people want it banned, and I get it. Zelantis does really oppressive things, but in terms of card design, it's a really cool card. And Marincess can utilize it, especially since Marincess will get waterlocked, can banish your whole field, and then Zelantis won't summon them back because you're waterlocked. So it's a great board wipe. It's a very cool card. Overall, Marincess, it's a solid choice going into the next format because it gets to play a bunch of hand traps as well, and it's 1 card starter deck. Moving on to number 4, we've got Raidraptor. Yes, the Raidy Shadies, Raidraptors. This deck is absurd. Yes, they have the choke point of Raider's Knight. However, a lot of the times you can just make the Raider's Knight untargetable, and a lot of the interruption in this format and post Legacy of Destruction will be targeting. So being able to full combo with your choke point being protected, very, very strong, very powerful. Also, you'd be able to catch a lot of people off guard with this deck, as not many people know how this deck performs. I mean, just me the other day, I got sacked by it at locals, and yeah, there were hands where that deck was playing through 3-4 hand traps like nothing, and it's definitely a frightening deck. Plus, not a lot of decks are playing outs to towers right now, or towers type monsters, so being able to play Raidraptors is not a bad call this meta. And what's nice is it's not expensive. You don't need to spend so much on this fire engine. You don't need to spend a bunch of money on a voiceless core. What's nice is you can pick up this deck for cheap and do really well. It is complicated, but if you take the time to learn the deck, it will definitely pay off. And finally, for the last deck, number 5, I decided to combine 3 different kinds of decks because they all essentially serve the same purpose. And that's Runic Stun, Regular Stun, and Burn. Again, similar to Floowandereeze, although these might be budget decks, you might not be making too many friends at locals. But if you're looking to get some good wins in, or you're looking, let's say there's a regional coming up or a bigger event coming up and you want to participate in it without picking up the whole fire deck, being able to play Runic Stun, Regular Stun, or Burn can definitely get you there. And a lot of the interaction points with fire right now, and fire is going to be the best deck going into next format too. So post Legacy of Destruction, a lot of the cards are essentially monster negates. So if you're playing just a bunch of back row, a bunch of floodgates, if you can get established on field, you're going to take a lot of easy dubs. All in all, these 5 decks, if you're looking for budget alternatives, I would recommend these. This is a bit of a shorter video. I don't know if you all like it, but let me know in the comments below. Did I leave out any decks? I'd want to know. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, peace.